Well, Tim, dude, thanks for having me in, man. This place is beautiful, man.
Thank you.
Very beautiful spot. How did you land a spot like this on the water in Arizona?
It was fate, I guess, is what it was. It came by with my broker and I. We, came by this location, and of course, when we came in, saw it, we're like, oh, it's very dark in here, and then walked right out to that patio and saw the big lake, and I'm like, why would you even cover this place up? And so we put our offer in, and landlord really liked our concept of what we wanted to do, bring to the center here in Chandler, and the rest was written there.
Nice. Very cool. Well, that's it. Wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
But for real, cheers. Thanks for the beer, man.
Hey, my pleasure.
This is, you said a West Coast IPA.
Yeah, Willowood Ipa.
Willowood?
Yeah, so Willowood's actually the street I grew up on.
Okay.
Growing up, had a lot of good friends, next door neighbors and stuff, and they actually do home brewing, too. And that's what kind of got me into it there when I was back in California. And then we just started going about it, and then as I grew up and started not drinking, Natty Light and stuff like that, I started really appreciating beer as it went there.
Yeah. Well, Natty Light is delicious in its own sense. Yeah. And Steven, right?
Jared.
I was close. Say hi to the camera right there. Well, no, you're good. You're good. I was going to have you jump on somehow anyway, so that was perfect. He's just getting buckets of beer for cooking, I assume.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know where I got Jared from. He looks like a Jared.
He is a Jared.
Or what did I call him?
Steven.
That's right. All right, man. This is off to a weird start.
Very good.
So, Tim, this is exactly on the path we need to be.
Exactly.
So, are you from Arizona originally?
Originally grew up in just north of Los Angeles, a small town called Moore Park.
Okay.
Yeah, was out there till about 19 and decided needed a change. So came out here, got accepted to Arizona State University, and brother was already out here. So I'm like, hey, let's make the move. And came out here, lived over in Mesa. Then, really saw as my career went, we were both bartending at a golf resort for, of course, free golf.
Sure.
The whole point. And, I've been working in the restaurant industry since I was 15 and saw that as instead of being an accountant like my dad and my grandfather, I'm like, you know what? I got to do something in this industry. So decided to leave Arizona State and go to NAU for the hotel restaurant management program. And rest rode its path there. I mean, it was great working at the time I was working at Weston Kierland, bartending up there, and just really fell in love with the hospitality industry out here. And that's kind of what geared my path there. And it's been a long ride there, but it's been a lot of fun. This is best part about is interacting with people every day, just talking to them about the Suns actually what a great start they are. We won't talk about the Cardinals loss. So
that's need a few more months before that can be discussed. Yeah,
that's the best part about this is just having people just enjoying a memorable experience, and that's what I try to do every day now.
Yeah, well, dude, I mean, it's the beer is fantastic, by the way. Very, very good beer. The view, I've heard that the food here is amazing, and I mean, food. It seems like food is a huge component of what Patent 139 is.
Yeah, we when I first started thinking of the concept, and I wanted to really focus on the food element because a lot of times you go breweries, you get your wings, you got your nachos, stuff like that. But what we wanted to do is bring that upscale canteen food element to it. And so
what exactly is that? What is canteen food?
So, what I look at, some of the dishes that are around there, let's say, for instance, your nachos there. Yeah. So we smoke our own pork butts here and with a green chili rub on there and elevate that with some homemade charro beans on there, queso fresco, and, of course, smashed avocado.
Of course, right? Yeah.
Well, that kind of goes into where the name came from.
Yes.
So, Patent 139. Yeah. So, back in 1935, the 139th patent with the United States is Hass avocados. Yeah. Which is my great grandfather.
Okay.
So,
very interesting story. Yeah.
It's a great story as it goes in, and he. At the time, back then, had an acre of land out in La Habra Heights and was growing Fuentes avocados, which is, of course, large green avocados.
Okay.
Was having trouble growing them And so he went to the farmer's market to grab some seeds to try to, let's try to get this farm to grow more.
Yeah.
Well, what happened is he planted it right next to the Fuentes avocados, and they cross-pollinated. So when 2 years when it bared fruit, came out with a rough, small, black-skinned, well, what we know now as Hass avocados.
Yeah.
And he didn't know what to do at the time, so he went to the farmer's market and was selling them off, and a lot of the more wealthy people nicknamed it actually Black Gold.
Black Gold.
Because it was so creamy with the high fat content on there, and that's how it spurned off of there.
And it was expensive too, right? It was like I read like the equivalent of $15 per piece of fruit.
Correct. Yeah.
Dang, man, that's like that's crazy.
Yeah, and he held the patent all the way up until 1952. He passed away.
Okay.
And unfortunately, didn't pass the lineage to my grandfather. So
gotcha.
In 1952, actually, the patent did expire.
And what happens? What happens at that point when a patent expires?
At that point, there's no royalties to be given.
So just like a public domain type of...
Exactly.
Wow.
So, I know. And he, during the time, made between like $8,000 and $9,000 back then.
Yeah.
You know, back in the 40s, that's some good money to be made. But yeah, then it's been a great family history.
Yeah.
And what I've wanted to do is honor that history.
Yeah.
There and, be able to focus some of our menu items using avocado in different ways. Each day we'll have an avocado feature. So we've been running a Chilean sea bass feature with it. And we used avocado oil in chives in it. So basically using every which way we can to incorporate avocados into it.
That's really cool. I mean... maybe it was just where I grew up, right? Because when I go back home, my wife eats very good. You know, she enjoys vegetables. She enjoys salads. I have to force myself right into those things. So maybe it was when we go back to Ohio, my wife's like, "There's no salads. Even the salads in like Cleveland, Pittsburgh area have French fries and melted cheese on." You know, so. For the avocado to kind of have its, I don't remember if it was huge back when I grew up in the 80s and 90s, but like if your great-great-grandfather is out.
My great-grandfather,
Great-grandfather, if he could see now what like avocado toast and the hipsters and.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
And, anywhere from, all the way through California with the avocado orchards. Had a really nice gentleman, actually, Richard, showed up about 2 weeks ago. Just walked in here. It was right before we opened the doors and asked if somebody from the Hass family was here. And so I introduced myself, and he actually lives in La Habra Heights and grows on his property Fuentes avocados and Hass avocados.
Okay.
And he drove out here from California to pick up a car, so he brought me actually Fuentes avocado trees, for some Fuentes avocados, because California avocados come in June, July, and August. But his dad used to drive by the original mother tree that's in La Habra Heights and would always explain the story to him about how the avocados came and, why we should appreciate it being in La Habra Heights. That appreciate that what my great-grandfather did and stuff. So really, it was he left me a great note and stuff like that. And it was great to see like some of the influence he had back then and still to this day too.
And he never, your great-grandfather never, he was still a mail carrier, right?
Yep, that's correct.
By trade. Like, so this was just kind of, it was just a hobby farm?
Yeah. It was more of just a hobby. He, was a mail carrier back then. And he was like a hobby horticulturalist and basically he borrowed money from his family to get that land out there to say, hey, okay, we're going to grow avocados and we'll sell them and stuff like that. And next thing you know, he actually does it. So my parents actually still have the original patent that was submitted. It's actually at their house too.
That's really cool. I see a wall over there that it could definitely go on.
Right? I don't think they're going to let me have that right now.
That's right. Maybe someday. And I thought it was interesting when I came across you guys was, it's an interesting thing to have a brewery open up and have the theme kind of be a fruit.
Yeah.
Right. Or, something people don't even know if it's a fruit or a vegetable. Right. Well, let's go back a little bit, right? Because you said what was your dad and your grandfather were both accountants?
Yep, that's correct.
And that was the path you were on too?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I was, got accepted with W.P. Carey school at ASU. Just like everybody, that their first time at ASU definitely opened my eyes for a little bit of what goes on there.
All right, what it's known for.
What it's known for. So it was, good. But what really made me realize is that I can't sit in an office. I gotta be up and moving. And, when I realized that just how much I loved being in front of people, talking with people, what drove me into the craft beer, being able to talk about beer and stuff. And that really then when I sat there and realized, I'm like, I'm good at math. I'm great at accounting. Yeah. I just can't sit in an office anymore.
Sure, right? Which are great skills to have, but if you can't get past that, especially growing up in California and then being in Arizona, you want to be outside.
Exactly.
You want to be outside as much as possible. Yeah,
you got to be out. I mean, especially this time of the year. I mean, just perfect weather. Yep. Going out. Where my wife and I were just talking the other day because I want to try to get another round of golf in while I'm out there. But understanding that I'm a little busy here too.
Right. Well, so I thought it was interesting that you went to the NAU, that hospitality program, because I've talked to multiple people that have gone through that place, through that program. Michael Marquis from Mother Road, I think he was one of the first. I think him and his ex-wife might have met there.
Really?
So. Yeah, that's very interesting. And so you make that decision to go through this program with anything like did you want to get into a certain aspect of hospitality, or were you just like, I like the industry?
At the time, I was actually working up at Weston Kierland. I was working over at the Villas property, and I was really into resorts. I really enjoyed it, and knowing that with Arizona, there's resorts everywhere. So to me, it was like, okay, this is a good set there too. Yeah. And of course, this was right during the 2009.
Everybody has something around that time. It was a pivotal point in their life too.
Exactly. And it kind of made me look at the industry and say, okay, where can I proceed to? Yeah. And at the time, of course, not a lot of people were hiring back then. Yeah. And then after that, for my first management job, I was at Wild Horse Pass Hotel and Casino right before it opened. So I was the assistant beverage manager. A lot of my trade was, back in mixology and stuff like that. So as a 24-year-old kid, I'm being like, okay, I'm going to take this on and go there. And that was my first opening. That I had to deal with. And I still remember that first day was, I think I worked probably about 22 hours that day. Yeah. It was pretty brutal. But, it taught me a lot about the industry and, working through the opening on how to plan and organize and then, be able to execute there. And that operation, I've gone back since I left, and even with the new remodel that they just did, been seeing how they got the new sports book in there. And I'm like, wow, I was back in, 13 years ago. I was here opening, and the fire marshal's like, "Hey, you guys have way too many people in here right now." So it definitely opened my eyes to, okay, this is the industry that I like to be a part of, and ramping up those openings and trying to bring in all the product that we did, and it was just having to organize. Okay, so I have $1 million worth of product. Where are we all putting it now?
Yeah.
So,
and that's stuff people don't think about, right? Like because the flow on the outside seems very, it flows well, right? Yeah. Like it's that's the point is for you guys to on the back end to break your back so that it seems like everything is just perfectly
exactly,
but there's so much to it. And I'm sure that's got to bring something a lot actually to you starting your own business, right? And are you glad that it's on a lesser scale, or is it no different?
It's no different.
Okay.
I'll be honest. For throughout my career and some of the openings that that I've been a part of and helped out with, it definitely taught me back then just to really appreciate everything that goes on, and especially what a lot of people I think in this industry sometimes don't do is ask for help and stuff. And so, when I had all my tables delivered, I called up my dad, my brother, Chef Jared was with me, my friend Steve McFate all came down and it's like, hey guys, you guys want to help build picnic tables?
Nice.
I'll buy the beer. But and that's what it's all about, is like everybody helping out with it. And that throughout my career, learning that with with everybody. And even during our grand opening, I have friends from Utah, Denver, Texas, all flew in just to come be a part of what we open here.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's really, and that says a lot about you, right? If you're a dick, they're not going to come do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, no.
Yeah, screw Tim. He's an asshole. I hope that place fails. No, man, that's really what it's about. That's what I think people fall in love with the service industry, right?
Yeah.
Is in hospitality is the camaraderie, the teamwork, like you're putting so much into it to create an enjoyable experience for the customer, right? And I heard someone say, I don't remember where this was, but if it's my friend Nick Butler. So I don't know if you know who Nick Butler is. So he did a book called A Year in Waiting. So he worked at Binkley's for a year. Okay. He's a friend of Kevin Binkley's. Well, actually, in the book, he doesn't say who the chef is. He doesn't use any names, but he talks about, with fine dining and really it trickles down is for a customer, it's better to it's a dance, not a fight.
Exactly.
Right? You're not fighting to get what it should be a dance together and something beautiful.
Exactly.
So if you're able to create that and have the people that are behind you that see you, yeah. I think I kind of trailed off a little bit, but you know where I was.
No, I know exactly where you're going.
So what made you decide to do something on your own, right? Because let's go back to California, right? Mm-hmm. Because your entry into beer.
Yeah.
How did the beer thing happen?
It first started out where my next door neighbors got into home brewing. Okay. And, I got intrigued by it. I'm like, okay, because at the time it's like, oh, right, like I said, Natty Light, or, if you really wanted to spurn, you went to Coors Light.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
If you got an extra good paycheck that week, you got to be like, hey, all right, guys, I'm going to Coors Light today.
Right, don't touch my Coors Lights. Yeah.
And, that kind of introduced me of, the different styles that were out there and wanting to learn a little bit more. And then coming out here, just seeing how the craft beer scene started really taking off in the mid 2000s, going to Four Peaks there back in the day. Way back in the day, going there and just being able to sit there and be like, wow, this is drinking Kilt Lifter or pumpkin porter. Yep. When that came out, I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
And it really started getting me intrigued on what is this industry about? And while I was working up at Weston Kierland, we started doing Beer 101 classes.
Okay.
And
wow. Nice.
So my good friend Laird Muller from Sonoran Brewing, he was working up there, and he's like, "Hey, what do we think about doing something like this, or even a beer dinner?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, that sounds like a great idea. And then it just started spurning into my days off. I'd run up when they were located at Pinnacle Peak Patio. That's when the original Sonoran was brewing up there.
Yeah.
And so I'd go on my days off and just be like, hey, you need help? I'd help bottle and do all the grunt work and stuff. And that was my first, okay, this is something fun.
Yeah.
This is something fun to be a part of.
Yeah.
And, being able to talk to people, and he got me into a beer festival to work on, and that's when first one was Made in the Shade up in Flagstaff.
Oh, yeah. That was my first beer festival too.
Oh my gosh. And it was an absolute blast.
Yeah.
I mean, that was I remember just talking to each of the other breweries and being able to try their beers and stuff. And it was just like, holy cow, this is a big environment to it. Now looking to fast forward to Strong Beer Festival coming up, and it's like, that's going to be huge out in Mesa there.
Yep. And in the industry from that point, right? Because I moved here in 2007, started dating my wife in 2008, and her parents lived in Flagstaff. So probably about 2008, we were going to Beaver Street because Mother Road wasn't open yet. I think it was just Beaver Street, honestly, in Flag Brew. But when Made in the Shade, I don't remember what year it was, maybe 2009, maybe 2010, around that time, when you got to taste all the breweries that you didn't even know about, Old World at the time, and it opened your eyes oh shit,
there's a lot around here,
really good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
People can actually make really good beer.
Yeah.
You can just sit there and that was actually when I first got into stouts.
Okay.
And then being able to try, and I'm like, these taste absolutely delicious. And at the time it's 74 degrees out there, and I'm like, this is the spot to be right now.
This is the life. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, so did you decide to take your career in a craft beer direction at that point?
At that point, I was working at a country club And I really realized, I'm like, okay, I want to be a part of something. And actually, at that time, I realized, I'm like, I missed working in resorts.
Okay.
So I got hired as the pool manager at Four Seasons, Scottsdale.
Right. Okay.
And I figured, I'm like, hey, I worked as a pool bartender. I'm like, I'll be the pool manager.
Yeah.
And had a lot of fun doing it. It was, a lot of people don't like working in the summer out there, but at the time I was hired, they were working on changing over one of the restaurants, Crescent Moon at the time, to that time they came up with Proof, which was an American canteen.
Okay.
The first time, this was first in the company to actually do a restaurant concept internally. Four Seasons, teamed up with Michael Mina with Bourbon Steak out in D.C., and a couple other Spago with Wolfgang over at Four Seasons Maui. So this was the time it's like we decided, the ownership was able to say, hey, if you guys want to put this together, we'll put behind there. And so I got tasked actually to do the beverage program for it. So our whole goal was to actually have everything from within the United States. Okay. So very hard task to try to find a tequila in 2011 that was from the United States.
Right.
And so but it was great because, at the time, a lot of Four Seasons were very against draft beer. At the time, back in the day, it was always, you had to have a bottle beer. Like a bottle beer was the way to go. So,
and why is that? Like, what was the?
I think back in like the 70s and 80s, it was more of a social class element that if you had bottle beer, like the draft beer was like, okay, those guys, they're going down to the local pub, they'll drink the draft beer. We're sitting in our nice restaurant, we're gonna have a bottle.
Sure.
And we had convinced them to say, hey, no, this is the opportunity to when you can showcase craft beer.
Yeah.
And it was great because at that time, a gentleman named Dan, he was comes in and he's like, hey, I'm with Mother Road Brewery. I'm like, oh, great. I've never even heard of it, but let's meet. Let's do it. And he brought, it was, what was it? Lost Highway, the Black IPA.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which I just fell in love with.
And that was my gateway beer too. Yeah.
Oh, and I remember him and I were talking, and he's like, well, we'll have a distributor soon, but we're just working on this. And I remember I'm like, okay, this is one of the first. And so we did a lineup there. We worked with Grand Canyon Brewery to do their Pilsner as like our proof Pilsner and stuff. And when we opened that concept, everybody was just drawn in, and everybody loved our craft beer selection. We had barrel-aged bombers at the time, and this is in a Four Seasons resort. And everybody's like, you're wearing jeans and a gingham shirt. And, and it turned out that within the company, everybody wanted to see like how successful it was doing it internally, but also, too, that the times have changed. Not everybody wants to go to a sit-down black tie event dinner every night. They want something casual and stuff, and we focused that menu on the Route 66 theme. So, shrimp and grits, chicken and waffles, stuff like that, where guests came in, they're like, this is great. They're at a Four Seasons, you can actually have a good casual meal.
Yeah. Yeah, and a great beer on draft.
Exactly.
And, because, I mean, honestly, when I go into a place and there's not a beer on draft, I'm a little like, I'll find something, right? But I'm a little bit like, man, nothing. Like, I might even take a Miller Lite on draft. There's something about,
It's something about it, just having a nice, crisp beer on draft.
Yep. Like, if somebody has a bottle of Stella, I'm like, But if someone's like, Buffalo Wild Wings, I shouldn't say, but Buffalo Wild Wings Stella on draft is... You can't beat it.
Yeah, it's like 29 degrees coming off the tap there. I love how they always promote that. I'm like, that's an ice cold crystallized beer on top there.
Yep. The more that one warms up, you want to drink that one fast. But that's what it's made for, right?
Exactly.
So that's really cool that you spearheaded that to open people's eyes in a different industry that is, I mean, craft beer is, and one of the things I was really drawn in is, I grew up, between Cleveland and Pittsburgh, super blue collar, right? So, so to me, brewing is a combination of creativity and blue collar, right?
Yeah,
and not saying that the other, I'm not saying wine's not blue collar. I'll say it. I like wine. I like wine.
Oh, don't get me wrong. Yeah. I love wine and stuff, but it's definitely
But I just dig it. I dig it that you can bring that and open people's eyes to like, oh shit, there's a whole industry on that side.
Exactly. And a lot of people who were traveling, coming out here for spring training and stuff like that, and getting them used to actually what we did in Arizona. And we were actually, I started teaching then the Beer 101 class when I was the pool manager.
Yeah.
And so I think it was every Sunday I'd have people come down and for the resort, and then I'd teach them about. And we had at that time I was doing Grand Canyon's amber.
Okay.
There, we had Kilt Lifter on there. I had Santan Hef on there, and so it was just nice to be able to talk to people and show them like, hey, these are the local breweries we have out here that make great beer, and you guys can get them here while you're here, or check them out while you're in town. I mean, they, even though it's up in North Scottsdale, I mean, it's not like in LA where it takes you, an hour to go 5 miles. You can actually drive here and actually, be able to visit a lot of places around the valley here.
Yeah, that's great, and that's great. Advocating for that, right? I mean, because that's kind of what the resorts do, right? Is like you want people to stay on property and that, this and that, but you also want to share what the community has to offer, right? Because they might find a brewery or a couple of them. They're like, shit, well, let's go back there, and we're going to stay at the Four Seasons when we go.
Exactly. I mean, I know me. Whenever I travel somewhere, I'm looking for a brewery to go to.
Absolutely.
And, we went to Chicago. My father-in-law lives up in the north suburbs, and first thing I did when we got there, and like, oh, there's a brewery restaurant right next to the hotel. Hey, you want to go get lunch?
Yeah.
We hadn't even checked into the hotel. I'm like, all right, let's go check this out real quick.
Yeah. And usually people on board, we surround ourselves with the right people. They'll be on board, right?
Yeah.
My buddy has a house on Lake Erie in Cleveland, and we were just chatting the other day, a group of us, and he's like, hey, you should come up. You guys should come up. We'll rent or my one buddy has a boat. The other buddy has the house, so we'll go up there, hang out, go on the boat. And I'm like, how long does it take to get from Ohio to Detroit? Because I've heard there's some pretty good breweries up there. We're going 2 hours on a pontoon boat across Lake Erie to get to some breweries. So I know that commitment, man.
That's awesome.
Okay, so you open people's eyes to great beer, right?
Yep.
I'm just going to say, how did you get the Ballast Point? Let's get to the point, right?
Well, it's actually a great story. I did a LinkedIn. I was like thinking at the time back in 2015, everybody's like, okay, get your LinkedIn profile up and running. And I'm like, okay, so I did. And all of a sudden I get a message on LinkedIn from saying, hey, would you be interested to interview with us for a GM position? I'm like, okay. And Ballast Point, I'm like, San Diego. Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So jumped on a phone interview with Jeremy Kirby. He was a VP of retail operations.
Okay.
And he starts telling me, he's like, oh yeah, we're going to open a spot in Long Beach, California. And I looked at him and I started laughing. And he's like, oh, what? I'm like, so I grew up north of Los Angeles. You don't go to Long Beach.
Yeah.
There. So I said, I was told, like, my mom was like, hey, you stay away from down, like there.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I even played some football games during high school and down there, and you would get escorted by a police escort off this freeway.
Yeah.
And
it's not cool like how Sublime and Snoop make it out to be, right?
And so I was like, okay, I'll be interested. But at the time, I'm like, well, Long Beach, man, that's a far stretch. And I'm like, and my wife, she's from South Haven, Michigan, up there, and went to Valpo. Her dad lived up in the north suburbs of Chicago and stuff. And I'm like, her in Long Beach? Yeah, this is going to be interesting. So, I went out, flew to San Diego for the interview, and he picked me up at the first thing in the morning. We drove up for 2 hours in the car on an interview. And my best part is, I'm sitting there, 3-piece suit and everything like that.
Yeah.
And he pulls up, he's wearing cargo shorts, a polo, and Asics shoes. I'm like, all right. So, of course, the whole interview, I'm like in a suit and stuff in the car. I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting. And so he drove me up to the spot and just drove me right through Seal Beach, and it was right on the water there. Yeah. And I just saw it. I'm like, this is going to be something interesting.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we drove 2 hours back to San Diego. And by that time, we went to the Miramar facility, gave me a tour. So we were at lunch. He's, orders beer. Then he ordered me another beer. Yeah. And then he drives me down to Little Italy. Then we have a couple more beers. And so finally he drops me off at the airport. I go in, I call my wife. I'm like, I think the interview went really well. And she's like, well, what'd you do? I said, well, here's what we did. And then I've been drinking beer since about 11 a.m. and she's like, really? And I got the call the next day. Actually, they offered me the job for there, and told my wife, all right, we're moving. And so we got out there, and that was just, seeing that location where it was just, we had to imagine, because it was just a beat down. It used to be called, I think it was Corey's at the time.
Okay.
It was a banquet hall, nightclub.
One of those things. Yeah,
exactly.
We've seen those. Yeah.
And, when we first got out there, we had to, put up the fencing, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute. What's all this stuff like? And then it was right on the jetty of the water, so a lot of homeless was there. And then we started going through the place, and we're like realizing, my general contractor he's like, I don't think this building's that sturdy. And I'm like, what do you mean? So basically, all the brackets and stuff holding everything on the kitchen side together. Yeah, that was all rusted.
So basically, they bought the piece of property.
Yeah, so
much what it was.
they actually, Ballast Point, was very focused on nautical there in their symbol, and so being by the water, they're like, great. So they put up these plans, and they're like, yeah, we're going to build something about 22,000 square feet. And I'm like, that's pretty big, guys. And they're like, yeah, well, the brewery will be about 2,000. And the kitchen's about 3,000, but we'll have 18,000 feet of dining. I'm like, that's a big spot, guys.
That is a lot.
And so we worked with City of Long Beach, California Coastal Commission to get this approved, the project. And so once we started building it, and it's crazy because when a lot of people ask, they're like, oh, well, where is it? Where is it? And I always referenced Gilligan's Island.
Okay, yeah.
And if anybody remembers, at the end of the show where the 3-hour tour, the boat's going out the jetty, that's the view from Ballast Point, Long Beach. So you can see right into Catalina Island on a clear day there, right? Of course, now all the barges that are stuck out there.
Yeah, right.
But it turned out to be a great operation. The city and surrounding, I mean, we started seeing just an influx of people. The first opening day, we put out just a Facebook post that, hey, we're open.
Yeah.
Within, I think, 2 hours of that, we had about 500 plus people.
Wow.
And I had to shut the kitchen down for 2 hours because it was just, we're like, oh my gosh, this is just insane.
Yeah.
And, built a brand out there that really put Ballast Point on the map to be outside of San Diego. They're well known Sculpin as one of the breathers of West Coast IPA. And it was nice to be able to extend that up into Long Beach, and then, which made way for, of course, more expansions of the tasting room as it went.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I remember Ballast Point as being the first, what was it? It was like $14 a 6-pack for the Watermelon Dorado double IPA. And I remember one of my buddies at work was like, dude, you got to try it. Because I was starting to get into craft beer a little bit. And I was like digging IPAs. He's like, you got it. I'm like, dude, $14 for a 6-pack? No way. And it took me a few passes through like Total Wine to finally pick it up. And I picked it up and I'm like, this is fantastic. And so for me, I kind of credit that beer to help kind of open my eyes to like, okay, these are premium products, right? You can't expect to pay the same or even a little bit more than what you pay for these crappy beers that you drank as a teenager or, as a college student. But $14 is definitely worth it with those, and now, you got breweries, even like a Wren House that, $24 a 4-pack.
Yeah.
You're happy to pay for it, right? As long as, the brewery has to have a good track record and they have to prove that they're making some good beer to be able to charge that and collect it. But if you're able to, it's a premium product and it deserves it.
No, and it was crazy because I had Sculpin before and I'm like, okay, this is great. Like, and then seeing all the different styles of beer, and go credit back to when we were doing the home brewing and stuff was Amber. Amber was the style we do it. Then they had California Amber out there at Ballast Point, and it was an ESB style Amber and drinking 5.5%, and it was my favorite beer that we did. And that's what really started showing. It's like, okay, we got to do Victory at Sea, the Imperial Coffee Vanilla Porter. You got to do a lot of different uniques. I mean, I think they've done every variation of Sculpin that's on there.
I was going to say, like, Ballast Point showed that you can do IPAs many ways.
Exactly. And it actually goes back to one we had was Blunder IPA. Okay. And it's funny because on the tags of the keg, it was right when we first opened the Long Beach location. And knowing how bad you can make a mistake on a beer, but what are you going to do with it? Because if you brew a 150-barrel batch there and you make a mistake, that's 300 kegs right there.
That is not good, yeah.
And we found out that they came one and it was called Check the Tank on the tag. And we're like, what is this? Yeah. And so the story is that they're brewing Big Eye, which was their more New England style IPA.
Okay.
And one of the brewers actually put the Sculpin variation hops in it. So, which is completely different from what it was. So as it comes into the quality lab and everybody's like, what is this? This isn't Big Eye.
Someone jacked something up.
And no joke, we all started trying and we're like, this beer is amazing.
Yeah.
Like and so then it became Blunder IPA.
Yeah.
And we only sold it in the tasting rooms as because we had 300 kegs of it.
Yeah.
So and actually we had a lot of customers at the time. They're like, this is one of the best beers you guys have done. Like, and we're like, yeah, well, yeah, of course.
What happened to the guy or the girl who jacked it up?
I think still worked there because then we had one come out that was what was it? I think it was the Victory at Sea, and it's coffee and vanilla.
Okay.
Well, then we had a variation called coffee only. Somebody forgot the vanilla.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure he did.
That's a good way to cut some costs. Vanilla's expensive.
Oh, it's
right?
very expensive.
Yeah. Like,
And
whoops.
And it was great to see what then really pushed it with Ballast Point was their Roots to Boots program, which is
that?
basically they wanted it to go back to their roots was homebrewing and stuff. So they would actually pay employees to go down to Little Italy location and brew on the 5-barrel R&D system, and they got to choose what style of beer you wanted to do. And some of those ones actually came about were Grunion, the pale ale, which was a GABF award winner, came out of those type of brewing there. And so, but then of course you had some, like one of my old employees, Chris, he decided they wanted to make a Matcha Green Tea IPA. It tasted like Colgate toothpaste.
Yeah.
and he was not allowed actually to go down to the Roots to Boots program, but it was great because we got to, we all got to, all the GMs of the tasting rooms, we got to get, and we did a smoked Helles beer and stuff. And it was great because actually, the brewing process, as we all know, can take time and stuff. So for us, it was nice we all got together, just had lunch together and, talk about what's going on and stuff. And it basically created a lot of camaraderie. And for a lot of people that I did one with, I got to brew with 2 production guys, an overnight keg cleaner, and then one of the tasting room employees. So it's nice. I got to know people that I probably would have never met because one of them works overnight. Yeah. And I'm up in Long Beach versus San Diego. So it definitely created that camaraderie and that team unity there, which we saw at actually each tasting room as it opened up and stuff. I mean, at Long Beach, I had about 150 hourly employees on staff. And
dang.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
It was a big staff, but also too, it's like to this day, still keep in touch with them. With Jared, who's my executive chef here, I hired him as a lead line cook at Long Beach. Yeah, worked himself up to sous chef, and then in 2018, I got asked to go over and help open as the GM the one in downtown Disney. Okay, so being the first brewery and tasting room in Disneyland Resort I was like, this is a great opportunity. And Jared, I was like, hey, you want to come on over with me? And that was a whole nother level of being associated with Disney.
Oh, really? I'm sure. We need to do a whole episode. You down to do a whole episode like a Disney beer and the dark side of? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I did get in trouble actually there because when we opened that location, we actually it was a 3-barrel R&D system in there. Had 2 3-barrel fermenters and a 3-barrel bright tank. I mean, tiny as can be. I mean, maybe 250 square feet total. Okay. And so at the time, it was right towards the opening of Star Wars Land. And I'm like, okay. So I'm talking to my brewer, Chris. I'm like, hey, let's brew like an Imperial Porter. Like, let's do something, and we'll call it like Death Star. Or it's Disney. They're like, you're not doing that.
Oh, really?
I'm like, guys, like I'm trying to promote like this and that. They're like, no. That's copyright.
Like you're right. As you're writing it, like someone comes and just takes your pen away. Like, what the hell is that?
I had Disney. We had put it because we always had like a sign of like up and coming beers, and we were brewing also a red ale too because we were thinking, okay, try to tie in something with like Luke Skywalker or something. Yeah. So I actually got the call sign of his jet. Yeah. And I'm like, it was like X-743. And so that's why I named it. Yeah. Disney comes up, they're like, yeah, you can't use that. Dang. I'm like, but it's on there. They're like, no. That's property of Disney. I'm like, oh, thanks, guys.
You would think that they would want, like, okay, I guess you look at it from a small business perspective. You look at it as like, wow, that's great. That's cool. Can you make more beers like that, right? Yeah. But Disney's got their shit figured out. They're like, stop. Oh, yeah. Stop. We're making our money on this our way. So.
And I remember my first meeting because at the time I was still helping Long Beach, and, they're about 20 miles from each other and stuff. Okay. And I remember my first meeting, we go to backlot Disney and security check-in, and I'm like, all right. So we got our security badges and stuff, and we're walking in these offices, and they're all empty. And I'm like, where is everybody? It's like 3:00 or something.
Yeah.
And then we walk into the boardroom, and there's, 3 people sitting at the table. And then the screen of just all executives in Florida behind it. And I'm like, we're talking about a brewery, guys. Like, and I mean, they were down to every single detail.
Like hammering you.
We had some of the iron, stainless steel, iron-looking ballast point cymbals made up, and we put them on some of the grates around the patio. And I mean, they were coming up, and they're like, "Yeah, those are too sharp. You need to sand those down." And we're like, and I literally took my finger. I'm like, and this isn't that bad. Yeah. but they had each department. I remember during that they had 7 or 8 different departments there. Yeah. Walt Disney Imagineers, Downtown Disney Management, Disneyland Resort Management, and I'm like, I'm just here to open a brewery, guys. That's all I want to do.
It's like cross jurisdiction. This is the jurisdiction of this or that. That's crazy. And I mean, I would say there's got to be so much that you've gained from all of this whole adventure of I mean, huge systems, right? I mean, the Disney system is, and I say systems because I always thought that the creativity would be able to like make everything float. And I'm like, shit, I got to learn about business now. And I went to business school and I have the knowledge, but I thought I was going to be able to put it on the back, But so when you see big business and the systems that they have in place, it's super impressive, right? Especially when you work with those companies, and now you can utilize that in your own small business.
And being able to see, when opening up the Ballast Point Long Beach, my boss gave me the being as my own. He's like, hey, think and act like an owner. Yeah. Like if you make decisions here, you're making it as you are an owner of the company. And that really like stuck with me as it went in. And it's just like, how these type of things, they were talking to our the designer wanted these like little flag things up in the roof. And the GC comes up to me. He's like, that's going to cost about $75,000. And I'm like, then we're not going to do it. Yeah. Like, and so we, of course, the designer was fighting back and forth with us. And we sat in a meeting with our CEO, and I looked at him and I'm like, hey, this is not, it may look good. Yeah. But at the time, we're over budget. We need to save money on this, and it's not going to really do anything to really appeal to what the operation is. And the CEO, he looked at me, he's like, then that's the decision we're going to do. And so it really gave me that sense. And then learning from Disney, all the different operational things. And, what I learned from them is just the great customer service.
Yes.
That's, I mean, you've probably been to Disneyland before, and everybody has a smile on their face. And when you go in the back of the house or what they call off stage, they're the same. Everybody is happy as can be and wants to be there to create those memorable experiences for guests. And they know people will save up years worth of income just to take that one trip to their kids to Disney. And you got to make that. And if you make a failure, you own up to it, and then you make it right. Yeah. And, that kind of drove me to coming out here. And when I sat and decided, I'm like, you know what, this is the time. I think I want to do my own operation. My wife looked at me at the time. She's like, okay. And I'm like, wait, what would you say?
It seemed like you have a very supportive wife.
Very.
Yeah. Long Beach first, Tim. Come on, man. Now it's like you want to start your own business. All right. But Long Beach was tough enough. No.
Exactly. No, she's great.
That's awesome.
She worked in the industry too and understood it. And, what kind of opened my eyes actually was during the COVID shutdown. I was furloughed for about 7 weeks and decided, I'm like, I'm going to write my business plan.
And this is, you were with Ballast Point at this point?
I was actually already moved out here.
Okay.
We decided that we wanted to get closer to family. My brother and sister-in-law lived out here. My parents were relocating. I'm like, the time's right. So I went and opened up. So we opened Ballast Point Disney in January of 2019. And I told my wife, I'm like, hey, not doing any more openings. I know we've done 7 already. Let's take a break from it. Then I move out here, took a job as GM for opening a restaurant called Flint by Baltair up in Phoenix, the Camelback area. And I opened that in October of 2019. So in 1 year, I opened 2 operations. So I told her after that, I'm like, hey, I'm not going to do another opening.
So you said no more, and then you did another one.
Yeah, and then I did that. And then I told her, hey, I'm not going to do another opening. And I said, unless it's for my own.
Okay.
And we had a great opening up there. Fortunately, like a lot of people, the COVID shutdown hit us pretty good, and then we reopened in May and really focused on getting back that level of service. And because by beginning of 2021, I realized the industry was just booming out here. Yeah. Everybody was like, okay, hey, people wanted to go places. They wanted
and at 21, you said?
Beginning of 2021.
21, yes.
And that's when I approached my wife and I said, hey, I really think this would be a good opportunity to look for something for my own and stuff. And she agreed and got with my broker, and then we wrote that business plan, and I'm like, all right, so yeah, we're going to do an operation. I was looking 2,500 to 3,000 square feet. And then we found this location. I'm like, it's a little bit bigger than what I'm thinking, but then I walked out to that patio and you can't get a better place to drink a beer.
No, this is, so when I was, on my way here, when I was looking on the map, I saw blue. I'm like, what the hell is that? Is that water? Is that water right there? And then I mean, that's kind of a joke because I've seen pictures of your guys' place and the views from the patio. This is fantastic. And so how many square feet is this?
This 4145. So about just over 4,000 square feet.
Okay. So, twice as much as what you were looking for.
A little bit. Yeah. And, but what I really realized is that this operation that we had here and seeing where it is. I mean, you got Arizona Wilderness right up the street here. Yep. You got, Santan and downtown. And I was like, everybody in the East Valley, would just love going out and stuff. And that's why I'm like, you know what? I really want to focus on this area. And even my broker, he's like, are you sure you don't want to look like Tempe and stuff? I'm like, I really want to stay out here because I feel like this is an up and coming area. I've been meeting people from Queen Creek that have been driving up here and stuff, and they're like, man, Maricopa, that's been the biggest one that I've met, maybe 5 to 7 different couples. They're like, hey, we drove up from Maricopa. I'm like, great. And then the next thing, hey, can you open one of these down here, please? Yeah, like, we need something down here.
Yeah.
But it's been great to see that people are driving from not just the local neighbors that are walking across the street, that people are driving from around the valley here to want to come out and enjoy it and, focus on the great food menu that we have here too. And of course, the beer speaks for itself.
The beer, it's fantastic, man. You have something different though. This is a raspberry blonde.
Yeah, it's raspberry blonde. So a little bit more on site when I started thinking of, okay, let's get something out there and knowing that a lot of people, that are introduction to beer industry, sometimes they like the fruit forward beers. And
absolutely.
I remember even with with Sculpin when they came out with pineapple Sculpin.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, and when I actually saw them make that, it was from pineapple rinds when they would do, at the time Ballast Point was making spirits too. So that's when they're like, well, we got all this extra pineapple. What are we going to do? And all right, throw it in a batch.
Chuck it in there. And that's brilliant though.
And then with the Willowood Ipa, we wanted a straightforward West Coast IPA.
Yeah.
Came in about 7.1 there. So it's one of those ones that'll sneak up on you as it is. And
because it's very easy to drink at 7.1 for sure. Yeah.
And then, of course, we have about 10 gas tap handles on right now just to get it going. So, of course, you got Wren House renovation.
Nice.
Yeah, those guys do such a good job.
They really do.
There.
They really do.
Yeah, and then we got the Helton's Valley Venom Pilsner on. And that,
great one.
I remember when I tried that, I'm like, I could sit outside all day and just drink this beer. And I'm like, man, I need this in a golf course right now. Because I could have 6, 7 of those, and I'm like, this is a great time.
Yeah, it's such a good beer. It's one of those ones that, like, it made me look at Pilsners differently.
Yeah,
right?
Very much.
Yeah, because I go to places, and same like what you were talking about. It was like, for me, it was stouts and black IPAs and maltier beers that kind of got me into things. So I remember going to Helton and having like his milk stout, and I think he had a Scotch ale, and the Pilsner was like, I just thought of Pilsners as Bud Light or Coors or something like that. And then I had them like, dude, this is good. This is really good.
Yeah. And that's when I was like, wow, I said, I need something knowing that we're going to be out here next to water. I said, people are going to want to come out and just enjoy a couple. I'm like, that's a perfect one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so, okay, let's back up just a little bit. You guys decide you're going to get a spot. You wanted to look in this area. How did you guys kind of run? Because I know there's different different stories as far as people's experience, right? Some people are like, oh, city was great. They helped us find a spot. We found a spot, second place we looked at. Other ones are like, we looked at 35 places, right? So, you want to be in the area. How was the search?
The search, actually, crazy as it was, we found this on the first day. Wow. My broker and I went out.
First day?
First day.
Dang.
And we went and we saw a couple places over on more Gilbert side area. And, we looked at another place in South Chandler, and then we drove up here, and, well, of course, we were told it was vacant. So he's like, hey, I'm going to go get the key. We'll go see it.
Yeah.
I go and I pull on the door, and it opens wide up, and bartender's in here. He's like, oh, hi, how's it going? I'm like, hey.
Thought it was vacant.
I said, I'm looking for is there a Mexican restaurant around here? And it was Valley Luna. So I was like, and so I told my broker, I'm like, hey, just so you know, they're operating still. And then we decided, we're like, okay, hey, we're not going to go in. That's just not the right thing to do. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to come back at night. And I know they're open tonight. So came back at night, and it was this was the dive bar. This was the dive bar, the neighborhood dive bar that people loved coming to. And so I walked in. I'm like, all right, cool. And so I ordered a beer, and I'm like, all right, hey, I'm gonna go check out. And I went and sat on the patio. I'm like, this is the spot. Yeah. Like if being out here, just sitting out here drinking a beer, this is where I would want to be.
Yeah.
And so we went through that, the negotiations, and decided, like, hey, this is the spot. And I had met one of the landlord's representatives, and they owned one of the shopping malls right next to Ballast Point, Long Beach. So he, of course, when he found out, he's like, wait, you opened that? He's like, I spent many days down there drinking, having a good time. And he talked about how great the staff was. And that's what I told him. I said, that's what makes a good operation, is the staff and the product that you put out. People will come back and stuff. And then that's where, when I told him, I said, here's what I really want to do. And they're like, this is great. Let's move forward with this and get it done.
Nice. So I'm glad to hear that, man. I'm glad to hear that, because some people you just mentioned, they're like, how much do you want to know, right?
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people, like you said, 30, 40 times, they're going through, and I was just like, when I saw this, and I told my wife, I'm like, hey, remember, because we used to come to the Pita Jungle here. Okay. And I say, hey, remember when we used to sit on the patio? She's like, yeah. I said, well, that's right in the same complex.
Yeah.
Like right there, it has this big, and so she came down with me, and we just walked around, and she's just like, this is it. Yeah. This is the spot that needs to be.
Yeah. I'm glad you picked it, man. Nice work. Well, I guess you probably do make it easier on your wife when, when you're going to move to Long Beach, but you're opening like one of the coolest, is it brew pub? Is that what we call it?
We'll start. We have a 1-barrel brew house.
I was talking about Ballast Point.
Oh, Ballast Point.
First, you moved to Long Beach, and it's Long Beach, but it's one of the biggest brew pubs in the country.
It was at the time. We were asking, and we're like, hey, what are we the biggest one? And I think it was Golden Road was being built in Anaheim there. And I think they got it up to like 24,000 square feet.
You buy like 10.
I was like, okay, guys, all right. But here's my thing. They were in an industrial park. I was on the water.
Not even the same.
Exactly.
Not even the same. Yeah. Okay. So things worked out in Long Beach for you. So you proved that to your wife, right? Now you're like, hey, I want to open my own spot, and you find a place on the water. Boom. Another one, right? Another place on the water. That's awesome. So did you at the time that did you have the branding and all that put together by this point?
Yeah, it was, when we made the choice to start looking, and I knew I wanted to, when I was talking to my family back in 2020, and, we always talked about our history and with the, my great-grandfather and the Haas avocados.
Yeah.
And I said, that's what a lot of people, they always pronounce my last name Haas.
Haas. Yeah. You always, I wonder, is it 2 A's or 2 S's, right?
It's 2 S's. So, and, keep it PG here, but, if you take off the H,
it says ass. You can say it, Tim, if you want. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what a lot of people, even last night, guess, so Haas avocado. I was like, well, it's actually Haas. Yeah. And, we have this nice neon sign my parents had made up. And so I went and I said, so if you take off the H, what does it say?
Yeah.
And the guy's like, ass. I'm like, there you go. See?
Nice. Yeah. Well, there was, and in the men's bathroom, there's a license plate. What does it say? I took a picture.
Hassman.
Hassman. Yeah.
That was my dad back in California. had that on there. And of course, everybody's putting it on. And the reference, as we all know, is to the Ass Man from Seinfeld. There,
yes,
and and of course, a lot of people now see that they're like, "Dude, you guys got that from Seinfeld, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's our last name, but off of there."
Yes, man, I love it. All right, so you got the branding all together. You guys are open now at this point, right? You're making food in the back. You have a few of your beers on tap. What's the big picture look like? What's the plan with this place?
Big picture is to really just drive home being a part of the community there, and working with a lot of the other local breweries and stuff like that. With John and those guys over at Oso. With Laird over at Sonoran, like trying to become a part of that too. But what we want people to do is come down here and really see that this team here, we want to put a great experience in front of you. And we're not just that it's your neighborhood bar to come, we'll stop by and stuff. It's like you want to come here, have great food, have a good experience, sit by the water, enjoy, and have a lot of families here too. That's one thing I've really strived about, is having people come and bring their family down. And we've actually had some regular guests that they live across in the apartment complex, and they've been here 2-3 times, but kids love it. They come run out on the grass out there and stuff like that.
You had a guess they were looking. They were just kind of glancing around. You guys open at 2 today?
2:00, yeah.
Okay. People just are drawn to a brewery. They just want to look in, and they were probably drawn by the smoke from their smoker.
And we got the pork going right now, actually, and that's one thing we strive with. Jared coming on board, and very talented, and just has a lot of great ideas. And we wanted to create not your typical brewery food. So like on one of our menu items is a Spanish octopus there, and of course a lot of people are like, so it's calamari, right? Yeah. I'm like, no. This is actually we get octopus from Portugal. There, cook it in house, and then we sous vide it in bacon fat for 5 hours.
Ooh,
yeah.
Wow, dang.
Then crisp it up on the grill, and we have a nice spiced avocado verde salsa.
Of course.
Chorizo, potato on there. But you wouldn't think, oh, wait, I'm going to a brewery and getting Spanish octopus.
Yeah.
We have lamb lollipops on there. A great dish. We use a beet puree on there. And then we do like an herb chimichurri sauce on it.
Wow, that's interesting. That's a next level, Tim. Nice work.
Yeah, and it's with the French dip we do here, it's smoked tri-tip. We do like a chili coffee rub on it, and then we'll basically make it as your French dip sandwich. And people have been coming all the time. They're like, this is great. Yeah. This is awesome.
Dang, why'd I come so early?
I know. I could probably get Jared to whip something up back there.
Well, he was out here a minute ago before he walked in front of the camera, but no. He was like, hey, man, it's about to smell real good out here. Smokers wrapped up or getting them rocking. And what about the beers? Like, so we've got the Willow Wood IPA.
This one's called, since it had that nice color on there, I named it, it's called Neon Nancer Blaster.
Nancer Blaster?
Yeah, it's actually named after my mom.
Okay.
So if when you meet her, bleach blonde hair, orange nails, tan, and growing up, a lot of her name was like Neon, and some of our friends called her Neon Nancer Blaster. And so we decided, so I told her, I was like, hey, I said, so the first thing I'm gonna do is name a beer after you there and stuff. And people have been loving it, and we're gonna get going on brewing up some ambers. I've been working on a good recipe for a black IPA because that's I'm like, I want to get back to some of these ones that not a lot of people are doing and have fun with it.
And people love them, right? Yeah. People love them. I mean, hazy IPAs and IPAs sell, and sours and pilsners, but like people love the black IPAs and the ESBs and those, I mean, you're not going to sell them, by the case full out the door, but people love having those beers on tap. You probably get surprised at the type of beers that people like. Yeah. Right?
Oh, I think all the time you get, like we had a brewery on our guest tap, Ennigan Brewery. They're out of the hometown I grew up in, Moorpark. Okay. Guys I went to school, grew up with, and our hometown didn't have a bar or brewery or anything, so they decided to do it, and they do all specific German ales and lagers. And so they had their Valkyrie alt beer on, and basically, the German amber style. But man, this one, it had 6.2% on it. But man, this thing drinks so smooth. Dang, we got one keg of it, and I talked to those guys. I'm like, hey, if you send some more out, let me know. I'll take some more of that
out here.
Yeah,
you had okay.
Yeah,
nice.
So we were able to get some out here, and really be able to talk to people about that and tell the story of like, hey, these are guys I grew up with. And they decided one was actually a accountant, one was a physicist.
Okay.
And then they decided home brewing, 3-barrel system. Now they're on a 10-barrel system brewing on it.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. People following their pursuing the dream, right?
Exactly.
If you're willing to put in the work in, right? Like same brewery, restaurant, content creation. It's like, it's fun and it's cool, but man, that's a lot of fucking work.
It was. I'm not gonna lie, it was definitely a lot of work. But that day we got to open the doors. It all sank in really, and it's like this is part of my own. And it was funny the other day. Like I got up, I'm like, oh. Man, what am I going to wear today? And wait, I'm like, wait, I'm the boss. I can wear whatever the hell I want. Jeans
and your own
t-shirt. Exactly. Like I don't have to dress up in a dress shirt anymore. They put all those in the back of the closet now, and I'm like, I said, this is the best part. I get to do whatever I want there.
Yeah. But that's kind of the catch-22 of it, right? Is like you can do whatever you want, but you better do what the hell you need to do. It's like it's a vicious circle. But no, man, I wouldn't be doing anything different. There's struggles, and it's a roller coaster, but wouldn't be doing anything else.
Yeah,
and it sounds like you found your path as well.
This is what I've always wanted to do. I started at. My mom always tells the story. At 5 years old, she was doing catering. And so at 5 years old, I'd dress up in like a little suit and I'd just go and serve people. And these old ladies start putting dollars in there. I'm like, wow, I can make some money doing this. I like this. I can buy whatever Lego set I want now. Hey, perfect.
Yeah. You started spinning around. It's like really earning it. Yeah. Well, Tim, nice work with this place, man. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do. And just a beautiful spot. And congratulations, man.
Thank you so much. And thanks for coming down. And then, but maybe we'll get Jared cooking something.
No, don't rush him. Don't rush him. I know I'm here a couple hours before, but I'll make a trip down anyway. So,
awesome.
Well, dude, thanks, buddy.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate the beer, too.
Hey, no problem.
All right, man.